When the Autocrafter was first announced for 1.21, it was pretty obvious that this block was going to completely revolutionize Minecraft farms, making almost every single block in the game 100% renewable. But to this day, I still have not really used the block that much in my world. And it's getting really annoying constantly having to manually craft annoying recipes like repeaters, comparators, pistons, etc. So today, we're going to build the biggest, best, most powerful Autocrafter in all of Minecraft. And to be honest, probably the most complicated redstone machine I will ever build. But the first thing we need to do is find a location where we're gonna build this machine. And I'm thinking I want to build like a big crafter block, maybe in this forest here right next to my main base. So I grabbed some concrete, some wood, and some detailing blocks and built an Autocrafter replica to serve as the case for the main machine. Okay, I think this is good enough. The inside is just blank right now, and I'm gonna add more decoration after we build the Autocrafter machine itself. But about the Autocrafter, I have a confession. This case really isn't gonna be big enough to fit the machine. In fact, not really any case is gonna be big enough because this is the machine. It's massive. 112,000 blocks for the most complex redstone build I will probably ever make. This beast of a machine was designed by Cubic Meter, and it's funny because he specifically said,
I would suggest that a technical behemoth such as this machine is only suitable for technical players who can understand its wiring and know how it works.
So to make sure I had a deep understanding to actually be able to build this thing successfully, I watched his entire video, give or take 5 or 6 times, and even wrote a scuffed research paper to ensure my understanding of every piece and component to the best of my ability at least. And since we're not going to be able to fit the entire machine in this case, I'm actually going to build the entire thing underground, which involves me manually digging out a giant underground room. So I got to work doing just that, and this took me forever. To give some perspective on just how long it took, I watched the entirety of Game of Thrones, beginning to end for the first time, all 8 seasons, all while mining stone in this room. Kind of a quick off-topic message to the writers of season 8. But after almost 2 full weeks and a couple breaks to start my new series, which you should totally check out by the way, I finally got it done. Oh, finally, it's over. That was definitely the most time-consuming part of this build. But hey, listen, I'm not building some lame Minecraft world, all right? I do things big, man. But anyway, here's what we're gonna do with this room. I want to use the new tough bricks and all of their different variants to detail all of the walls and ceiling and floor of this room. And I'm sure you can tell by the size, that means we're gonna need a lot of tough blocks. I already completely dismantled the trial chamber that I found for the 1.21 video, and that got me almost half of the amount of tough that I need. So let's find another chamber and do the same thing with that one. I just need another trial chamber map for my cartographer villager. Here we go. And I'll also grab some beacon supplies so we can do this way faster. And let's go find this chamber. Okay, it should be right down here. And I don't want to fight anybody, so I'm going to go through the entire chamber first and destroy each spawner. And this took a while because it takes a grand total of 1 minute and 15 seconds just to destroy one of the spawners. So I spent about 30 minutes destroying every single spawner. All right, now it's time to destroy this place and ruin all of Mojang's hard work creating it. Sorry guys. And compared to digging out the room that the machine is actually going to be in, mining all these tough blocks actually felt super easy. There's one thing wasting my life playing this game has taught me, it's patience. Especially patience when doing something as boring as mining a bunch of blocks. All right, and that is the entire chamber destroyed. Now let's take all this back to base and see if we have enough blocks for what we need. So we're gonna need just a bunch of different tough blocks, and we have more than enough tough bricks, almost double the amount we actually need. So let's go ahead and craft up the raw tough that we have into the rest of the blocks that we need and see if we have enough. All right, that's almost all the blocks we need. I'm only 30 shulker boxes short, specifically of raw tough, just like this. So I'm gonna have to get that manually. So I went back underground and spent a healthy 4 hours getting the rest of the tough blocks, and then it was time to build up the room. All right, we finally got everything. So basically what I wanna do down here is pretty much just a massive stone chamber. Think something similar to like Smaug's chamber from The Hobbit. So I'll do the floor first with this repeating square pattern here and some sea lanterns so that mobs won't spawn. And then we'll just cover the entire floor like this. Okay, this looks really good. Now for the walls, I want to have a little bit more depth. So the base of the wall will be kind of similar to the pattern of the floor here. And then we'll have a line of sea lanterns in the middle to add a little bit of extra light. And then in the front, we'll have this repeating line of pillars so that the room doesn't really feel so flat. And that looks good. Now we basically just repeat this section all the way around the room. And I went full speed on this. It only took me about 3 hours, but it looks pretty good. All right, this looks great. Now, all that we have left to do is the ceiling, which I want to have kind of cast light down onto the room below. So I have these repeating sea lantern light panels so that both the machine and the room won't feel too dark. And that's the ceiling done. One more thing that I totally forgot to mention that we need to do also is pillars. And these will basically just hold the entire room up. And just like with the walls, I don't want these pillars to feel like super flat and dull. So I have the center lined with sea lanterns to make them glow. And then on the outside, I have a bunch more details to make it feel more alive and have some more character. And we are done. Just take a moment to appreciate how good this looks. This turned out absolutely fantastic. Obviously, I'm gonna remove these beacons eventually, but I'm just gonna leave them here for now for convenience sake. But with how good the room looks, it kind of got me thinking. In comparison, I think the case really sucks. I definitely did not put enough time into designing it. This is way too simple and not as accurate as it could be to the actual block. So I hopped into a creative world and spent a decent chunk of time redesigning the case into something that looked a little bit more like the actual block. And I think the result was definitely worth the extra effort. Okay, and the new and improved case that we're gonna build has 23 different blocks that we're gonna need, plus some extras for some interior designing. So let's start with the ones that we need the least of first, and then go up to the ones that we need the most of, which starts with 2 stacks of stripped dark oak logs. Then we need 3 stacks of spruce logs, 3 stacks of redstone lamps, 5 stacks of cracked nether bricks. I don't think I've ever used this block before. 5 stacks of dark oak planks, 6 stacks of stripped birch logs, 6 stacks of just normal nether bricks this time, 6 stacks of black terracotta, 8 stacks of cracked stone bricks, 9 stacks of stripped crimson logs, 9 stacks of some red nether brick, which we'll use for the interior decorating, 11 stacks of chiseled bookshelves, interestingly enough, 11 stacks of stripped jungle logs, 13 stacks of chiseled stone bricks, 14 stacks of stripped spruce logs, 15 stacks of sea lanterns, 17 stacks of crimson logs, 18 stacks of barrels, 27 stacks of gray concrete, 28 stacks of stripped oak log, 29 stacks of spruce planks, 35 stacks of cyan terracotta, 36 stacks of gray concrete powder, 36 stacks of oak planks, 36 stacks of glass, 51 stacks of clay, 60 stacks of andesite, 86 stacks of polished basalt, 116 stacks of smooth stone, 141 stacks of normal stone, 159 stacks of stone bricks, and finally, for pretty much all of the interior, 376 stacks of white concrete. And we're done. Thank God for farms in this game, because if I did not have them, getting all this stuff would have taken me days. But that's pretty much everything we need. Now we just need to get rid of this ugly thing. And I think I have an idea. I set up a fancy little redstone contraption that I think is gonna help us out a bit. And now all we gotta do is flip this lever like this. Like this. Hello? Oh. And ow. That should do most of the work for us. And now I was out of TNT, so I just manually removed the rest of the blocks by hand, and also did a little bit of terraforming since this new case is a tiny bit bigger. All right, and this looks good. We have our clean slate, and now we can build our new case. Obviously, we'll start with the outside first, and as you can see already, this design is miles better than the last one. From a distance, it pretty much looks indistinguishable from the actual crafter block. So I first finished grinding out the 4 walls, and then it was time to do the ceiling. Okay, and for the ceiling on the inside, there's gonna be a light fixture in the shape of the crafting table grid, and I want to use lava as the light source. So I need to build the underside here first before we can cover it up with the roof. So grab a bunch of lava from the nether, and because all the lava looks the same from underneath and you can't see the flowing, I just need to space out where I put each lava source, which makes this a little bit easier. I wish there was a way to get lava easier than by going to the nether. Water obviously doesn't work like lava, and you can't make infinite lava sources, which is pretty annoying, but I mean, who really uses lava that much anyway? But I think this looks good. And now we just cover the top with our crafter block roof. And our new case is done. Well, the outside at least. For the inside, we already did the ceiling, obviously, but I want to do the walls and the floor a little bit more detailed than the last case. For the floor, I'm going to do another tileable repeating pattern that's similar to the one downstairs. And then for the walls, I want to start with this flat concrete layer and then have these stone pillars that will kind of add a little bit more depth to the room. And then finally, I'm going to add these lava spouts that come down from the top and flow into the bottom of the room. I'm kind of going for a style as if the lava is like powering the crafter down below us. And speaking of the room, we actually kind of need a way to get in there. My idea for the entrance is a tiered staircase against the wall of the room, so we'll cut a hole in the floor here, and then we'll build a staircase out of tough blocks just like the room down below. That goes from the case to the floor. Alright, I think these stairs look good. I built them in a way so that when you're in the room here, it looks kind of just normal. You're above ground, big empty room, right? But then when you hit the stairs, it's like, oh, there's this hole here, and then it slowly reveals the massive room down below. But I want to add one more touch because all the gray is a little bit too gray. I don't know how else to say that. And I want to put a wooden frame kind of around this, kind of like it's almost scaffolding that's holding up the structure. Think of it like instead of having built this place, we kind of just discovered it and are building additional infrastructure on top of it to kind of like support these ancient ruins. And it really plays well into the theme that I'm trying to implement across the world with the factions. And of course, with these factions being mentioned, we got to include their banner, which I'll just litter all around the build and pretty much any build that's supposed to have been built by them. All right, so we've got the main case connected to the room down here and everything looks super good. Now, next what I want to do is I want to make sure the case is connected to the rest of the valley and home base. So I'm going to make a pathway that surrounds the case, extends over here, and I want to make it go up through this part of the mountain here, which we're literally just going to completely cut away. First, I'll clear out some trees by the case and create like a walking path that wraps around. We can also put some fences and some bonfires to make the area up here a little bit more developed. I'll also go ahead and remove the beacons from the room down below and replace them with the pylons from the valley so they don't really intrude on the build. And then I extended the walking path up to the base of the mountain, and it was time to start digging again. And I'll put a beacon here, of course, to make this a little bit easier. And since it was mostly stone, it was really easy to insta-mine. So I just started at the top of the mountain and literally just cut it in half. Yeah, this looks really good. Now I'm gonna grab some sea lanterns and some smooth stone and also some wood. And I wanna kind of frame out this area that we cut out so it doesn't theoretically, you know, collapse and kill anyone walking under it. And it'll look a lot nicer. You can never add too much detail. And then finally, we extend the path down to the valley. All right, and with that done, we are pretty much finally ready to build the machine. And we need a ton of stuff. Starting off with just 34 shulker boxes of glass blocks, which is pretty easy to get because I have my duper and furnace array in the end. And then we got 7 shulker boxes of powered rails, 3 shulker boxes of packed ice, 3 of white concrete, and then 3 of observers, which is where I hit an issue. Okay, I'm pretty much completely out of cobblestone. And I'm kind of in between factories right now. I'm planning on building a super high quality factory district here in the valley that'll mainly be geared towards some of these more basic resources. But I haven't done that yet, and I've already destroyed my cobblestone generator that was in the old barn here. Very poor planning on my part. So I'll take a quick detour and build up a cobblestone generator really quick. This machine is super simple to make, thankfully. And now we have a steady supply of cobblestone, which hopefully will hold us over for the rest of the project. And now we can easily make our 3 shulker boxes of observers, and we can get back to the rest of the items, which next calls for 2 shulker boxes of hoppers, 2 of redstone dust, 2 of glow lichen, 2 of activator rails, 2 of redstone repeaters, 2 of mangrove roots, and finally, the last block we need a lot of is the crafter block itself, which obviously I need to craft up. And then, of course, we just need all the miscellaneous items that are too boring to bother listing. And we line everything up down here, and we are ready to go. All right, that's everything. And now, once we actually build the machine, I'm going to need a place to store the literally hundreds of thousands of items that are going to come out of it. And that is what the case is going to be used for. Now, I'm not going to do anything too complicated. I don't need any kind of elaborate sorting system or anything. So I think the best course of action is to literally just line all of these walls with hundreds of thousands of chests. Simple enough. So by doing the math, the area of the walls is 5,625 blocks times 4 for 4 walls is 22,500 blocks divided by 64 for every stack is 352 rounded stacks, which gives us rounded up 14 shulker boxes of chests, which means we need 28 shulker boxes of logs, which thanks to our wood factories, we already have. Obviously this amount of chests is a little bit overkill, and I also still need to come up with an official entrance for the case. I'm not going to be coming through this corner the entire time, and I haven't really settled on like a actual idea yet. So we're just going to do these 3 walls first, and then we'll see about the entrance and see if we can squeeze in some more chests maybe above or something. And after about 6 blocks, I can't reach the top chests without jumping, so every 6 blocks I'm gonna need to make a terrace that climbs all the way up to the roof so we can reach every single chest. So I'll grab some more wood from the End City tree farms and some cobblestone from our new cobblestone generator, and now we'll just build our first deck layer using the wood as a trim and then the stone as the actual floor. All right, I think this design looks pretty nice. I used some sea lanterns here with some trapdoors to make sure everything was lit up properly, and now we're just gonna build up each terrace layer by layer with the same repeating pattern until we reach the ceiling. And finally, we are done. This room looks 100 times better than it did before. It always looks pretty bright because I usually have full bright on when I'm recording videos just because it looks like 100 times better. But here's what it looks like with it off. Sometimes it's nice to turn it off and kind of just see the natural Minecraft glow. It's a lot more cozy, even if it doesn't look as good for the videos sometimes. Anyway, now all that we have left to do is the chests. Hundreds and hundreds of chests across every single wall. And that officially completes the storage for now. So whenever we craft something downstairs, I'll bring it up here in the form of shulker boxes, of course, throw it in some of these chests, and then probably use an item frame or something to organize it. But anyway, here is the plan. I'll build up the machine and make sure it works, and then I'll test it by crafting up a bunch of stone stairs, stone, other blocks, and we can use those blocks to build a legitimate entrance for the case upstairs. And then once that's all done, I'll do some more complex crafts with like some redstone contraptions like pistons, repeaters, comparators, etc. Now, the scariest thing about building a redstone contraption that's this complicated is pressing that start button and nothing happened. So I hopped into a creative world and built up the entire machine by hand, very, very carefully checking every single detail. A lot of these machines might have hopper filters or specific items that have specific items in them, and literally just one of these things being incorrect or missed or whatever can break the entire system. So I was being super careful, and this part of making sure it worked was more time consuming and frustrating than literally the entire build in survival. There were so many little things that I had to figure out on my own, like figuring out how to put a hopper minecart pixel perfect over 4 separate hoppers so that the storage system would work properly. And another thing was finding out that the starting component itself for the farm used a concept called piston zero ticking to send a signal in a very specific way to start the machine, and this zero ticking concept only functioned if the piston that was being zero ticked existed on a very specific type of world coordinate itself, which means if the machine was built literally 1 block to the left or right, or the whatever was in the wrong spot, it just wouldn't work at all. And that problem right there was one of the hardest things to figure out on my own, because it literally makes no sense intuitively at all. And Cubic also didn't mention it in his video, which I don't blame him for. I mean, he specifically said not to build this thing in survival, so of course he's gonna leave out the super niche technical details that really have nothing to do with the video he's trying to make anyway. But after all that pain, all that suffering, I was finally ready to build the machine in survival. God help me. And so it began. Now, you may think that this is not that many blocks, and this time lapse kind of gives it the illusion that this was done pretty quickly, but no. After the whole debacle and pain that I went through in creative mode, when I was in survival, I was double, triple, quadruple checking the accuracy of everything on every single level, making sure not a single block was placed wrong, not a single filter or container had incorrect items in it, and that I wasn't accidentally pinging or activating any observers, which would pushing any blocks and messing anything up. I've grinded my butt off for weeks for this project, so if this does not work when I'm done and I can't get it to work, I'm gonna lose it. I'm gonna lose my mind. I'm gonna go insane. Another one of the really important things that I had to make sure not to miss was that all of these dispensers and the hoppers above them were filled to the brim with raw fish. I know what you're thinking. Why raw fish? What? Well, 2 things. 1, raw fish is not used in any crafting recipes whatsoever, and you'll see why that's important later. But 2, I have a ton of raw fish. My Guardian farm, as a byproduct, produces raw fish, and it's my main food source in the world. If you watch any of my videos, I'm always eating raw fish. So I had a ton of it left over, and so I used that for the system. There was also this one section where I had to build these curved rails that were always curved left like you see here, and the process that I had to go through to do that was so hard to figure out. I had to look up a bunch of random videos and stuff, and for a moment I kind of panicked. I thought maybe it was impossible to do in survival, and it was simply a concept thing that he had done for the video, and I was so scared for a moment that I had done all this work for it to quite literally be impossible in survival. But I figured it out, and it took me forever to literally just build these rails. And anyways, after almost 20 hours of meticulous building, we are almost done with the entire system. There's a few more things we have to do. First, I need to spawn proof the entire machine so that all of the water sources and normal spawning blocks can't spawn anything, or else glow squids will spawn and stock up the entire system. Okay, next, specifically back here, we need to load up every single one of these little 27 pockets of these detector rails here with 27 hopper minecarts each, which means I need 27 shulker boxes completely full of hopper minecarts. So let's craft even more of these. I haven't even mentioned how many hopper minecarts I've already had to craft for a lot of the mechanisms within the machine itself. And when this is all done, I never want to craft another hopper minecart by hand again. Anyway, let's just craft these up. Now we just slot these into the chest labeled fill with 27 shulker boxes of hopper minecarts. There we go. Now what we need to do is have those minecarts essentially be filled up with raw fish and then put back into the machine. Now here's how we do that, and focus up because this is extremely complicated. So essentially what we have to do is press this button once, and the machine automatically stacks all 27 minecarts full of fish and slots them into the system, and then does it all over again. And if you're wondering where all these fish are coming from, they are coming from this chest right here, which I filled up while I was building up the machine. The design of this entire machine is simply beautiful. Now once these are all filled up, the machine should be finally complete. Okay, and we should be good to test the machine now. And for our very first test, I think I'm actually gonna do sea lanterns instead of stone or whatever I suggested earlier, because I'm almost out and I need some more. And I think I'll do 3 shulker boxes worth. Okay, we got our materials, and how we do this is, if you notice here, these colors of these chests here correspond with these colors on this grid, which is literally just a normal crafting table. So we load our items in the chests in the right order. So 3 shards, 3 crystals, 3 shards, 3 crystals, 3 crystals, 3 crystals, and then 3 shards, 3 crystals, and 3 more shards. Boom. And then once we have the ingredients in the chests, and they always have to be in full shulker boxes, by the way, we simply assign the recipe by hitting this note block here. And they're sent into the system, ready to be crafted. And then, moment of truth, to start the machine, we simply hit this button. And just like that, 3 shulker boxes of sea lanterns. Easy. All right, and the last little housekeeping thing we have to do is the entrance. And originally, I was thinking of making this front thing here like a ramp that like folds down so then we could walk into the face of it. But I decided against it because I think it'll mess with the overall look of the case too much, and I really don't want to do that. So instead, what I think I'm gonna do is just expand this corner entrance here. I'll put some sea lanterns and I'll connect the path to the door. All right, that looks good. Now, last but not least, I want to craft a slightly more complex item in the crafter because I realized I didn't even show you guys what the raw fish are for. Normally, how you would use the crafter block is by blocking off one of the 2 of these tiles to be able to make whatever shape that you wanted to make for the crafting output. But obviously, with this machine, we can't manually go in and tick off whatever tile that we need for whatever we're crafting. So what the raw fish does is it fills that spot temporarily until the pattern for whatever we're crafting is made, and then it's pulled out of the crafter before the crafting operation is activated. So this time I want to craft redstone repeaters. So we have the materials here and we just slot them in exactly like how they would be in the crafting table. And then we assign the recipe just like before, and then we simply hit start. What is that sound? What the